What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your NASCAR betting and DFS home. Today, we will be talking Indy Road, building some DraftKings lineups, as well as checking out the updated betting card with practice and qualifying in the books. We will get it all started here in just a few.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Good morning and welcome, everybody. Appreciate everybody hopping in. Feel free to drop those questions as we roll along here. But Brian, practice and qualifying is in the books. We saw some interesting stuff in practice.
Yes.
We saw some different interesting stuff in qualifying. Some people were able to put one lap speed together just to get what they needed without actually looking that strong in practice and qualifying, or in practice rather. Interesting morning, but I see you're rocking the watermelon hat. What a day for Ross. I mean, I guess before we dive into everything, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah. Speaking about practice and qualifying, like we knew this guy had been fairly successful at road courses so far in 2023, but Michael McDowell, man, like throwing together the fastest lap, the fastest 10 lap average, starting pretty damn well in qualifying. Like that was incredible. And then you and I, we kind of hit on it prior to jumping on here this morning, but I kind of feel bad for fading SVG now because for him to finish where he did in the truck race inside the top 20, like he improved throughout the entire race. And then, looking at practice, he didn't look that great. And then he throws together a top 10 qualifying session. This guy seems to be able to learn on the fly, learn really quick. I'm excited to see what he's able to do here on on this road course. And then the other road course ringers from other, I guess you would say like professions or other
Disciplines.
types of racing. Yeah. Disciplines. I was kind of disappointed in Kobayashi. Like, I thought he'd unload a lot better. However, we did hear somebody bring up the fact that maybe Denny Hamlin set up his car differently. So maybe because 2311 and Denny had kind of been getting together with their setups of late in the last few races, maybe they set up their cars for long run speed here as opposed to just trying to make it single lap speed, because we saw Denny qualify on pole a couple of times already and then look like shit during the race. So I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it, but I'm excited for this day. I really don't think it's going to be a follow the leader type race. I think you're going to see strategy play out tremendously here.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting for some of these newer guys like SVG even to see how the strategy impacts their day. And obviously, I think if SVG can be in the mix when, like, if we get to overtime or we get to, a late run, he could obviously be there, but he'll also have to put his car there throughout the day. And that'll be interesting to see, because in practice, he was not able to wrap consistent times. But as you mentioned, he was able to figure stuff out, get faster as practice session went along and figure some things out. So we'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, we got some people joining us. Thank you for hopping in. Leave questions or comments in the chat. Dave talking about Michael McDowell, who was obviously incredibly fast, and then Ty Gibbs, one Xfinity, should be fast today. A lot of reason to be excited. So let's jump into the DraftKings slate as we always do. We'll run driver by driver, give our thoughts, figure out where the value may be, and then we will build the lineup or two. So let me throw that up there. Okay. Party Marty starting 12th, 10-5, still in on him very much. Qualifying was okay. Practice, he was better. He was a guy that I know I was really excited about. Obviously, was the betting favorite coming into the day. That's changed. We'll hop over and look at that shortly, but I still think he's very much in play and can be somebody that that you can get to at 10-5.
Yeah, Truex, him and Byron have been the two best drivers throughout the course of the season. We've talked about this pretty much every single week heading into this weekend. And Truex, he refound that road course ringer type racing and showed it at Sonoma. The street course, he was good. I know he wound up wrecking because he was pushing the car a little bit too hard there, but yeah, no,
it's also a different animal between the weather and the actual
of course.
walls and everything.
Yeah, no, I think he makes a ton of sense being the top priced guy. I mean, starting 12th, you have all the potential for position changes and such. So,
yep. Tyler Reddick starting second could be the guy you need. He could get to the front pretty easily and just be like Martin at Sonoma, like just dominate. Obviously, there's a lot of Coda crossover here, a place where he was really impressive as well. So I don't fault anyone who goes Reddick as their dominator at 10-3 and just lets him run all day and be in the front.
Let's just hope that he keeps the car in one piece, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of guys that I feel like every single week we get on here and talk about, can they keep it together for 3 stages? Reddick being one of the very few on that list. SVG starting 8th at 10-1, and average ass Chase Elliott puts it in top 3, 10K. This is going to be a spot for him. If he wants to lock in a playoff seat, win today, you got it done. Showed speed, looked pretty strong. Obviously is a guy who traditionally does pretty well on road courses. So there's a lot to be interested in here. I don't know. I always have struggles with him because I'm always out. And then the weeks that I jump in, he just wrecks within the first 5 minutes. And then I'm like, what am I doing here? So
yeah, I'm a little sour on Chase Elliott after wrecking out when I've had a ton of exposure to him on a top 10. So
yeah. And even like in practice, like he was fine, but he was like his average speed was like 22nd. Obviously he
did have a top 10 lap average, but I mean, obviously we're not running 10 laps. We're running a lot more than that. And, the pressure is definitely on here for him, knowing we're hitting these road courses. And then after that, it's Daytona. Like, you do not want to go into Daytona needing a victory. And so, he's going to be stressing and trying everything possible to get a victory these next 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm going to be really curious to see, like some of the guys that need a win. I might, like, if it's close between 2 drivers and they're relatively the same price, I might lean towards the guy. I mean, obviously it depends on how you're building lineups too, but like I might lean towards the safety, knowing that Chase could do stuff to stay out or use a little strategy that may end up backfiring, end up killing some of my lineups. But in order to try and secure that win. So, yeah. Let's dive into the 9K range where we have Kyle Busch starting 5th. We have Kyle Larson starting 6th. Chris Bell, 9,400, starting 7th. The Dinger, 9,300, starting 26th. Your guy, Christopher Buescher, starting 17th at 9,200. And Denny Hamlin, starting 25th at 9K even. Very interesting range. Some guys in the front, some guys in the back. Who's jumping out to you from a value perspective?
Well, I worry about Dinger. Like, clearly Colleague missed the setup here, and I don't know how, considering Dinger has been incredible at this track the 2 times we've come here, and then he looked pretty good during the Xfinity race, although, he lost to Ty Gibbs, ran away with that. But he's going to be extremely popular. I think he's still got a shot at a top 10. I just worry about maybe that team has kind of like punted the rest of 2023. So for me, from this range, as much as I want to go to Buescher, I know he's probably he could be uber aggressive, just looking for a 3rd win, knowing he's locked into the playoffs. But I think Christopher Bell is somebody that's interesting because he showed speed in practice. He showed decent speed in qualifying. He was good at the Chicago street course. He's been good the last couple of weeks. It's just been a matter of, same story as Tyler Reddick, keeping the car on track, and you run the risk there. But in terms of somebody that's bringing it every single week, that's bringing the speed and has a chance to win here, I think Christopher Bell, 9,400, maybe he can work his way to the front fairly quickly and then maybe on strategy jump to the lead and lead a bunch of laps here.
Yeah, I'd rather go Larson. I know he's a little feast or famine too, but $200 more, starting one spot for forward. But I think he could be fast. He was incredible in practice. Obviously put it in the top 10 for qualifying. I think he makes a lot of sense and is somebody that I'm happy to get to. Especially
HMS is dead to me after
last week, and that's fine. And if that, I think I wouldn't fault anybody who feels that way, but that could create some nice leverage plays for us this week. And I'm in on Dinger. I know practice and qualifying wasn't great, but he's so good at this track. And I feel like even with like a C- car, he can wheel it around and they can make some decisions. And like you said, put it in the top 10, maybe even, top 5.
The only thing I worry about though is that without the stage break cautions, there's no way to strategically, pit in order to gain positions based on that knowing the caution is coming up,
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. It'll be interesting to see. I think Hamlin's another guy kind of in that bucket where like hopefully they figured some stuff out last night. Hopefully they can get it to where it needs to be and they could be in contention once again. But I think if you get those guys right, I think you can make some serious noise this week. If you get them wrong, it could be a long day for sure. Let's talk about the next range, which I think is really interesting. William Byron. We talked about his struggles in terms of getting his car through, NASCAR regulations. Basically, has to start in the back, which I think based on what we saw in practice and what we know how we felt coming in, I feel like he's almost a must play at 8,900. Like,
yeah, I mean he's going to work his way up. Yeah. It's just you're gonna have to differentiate yourself because he is probably going to be over 50% rostered. I mean, he's probably going to be the most rostered person on the week just because of where he's starting and the type of equipment he's in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll probably, be contest specific and obviously, like you said, find ways to be a little bit unique. But like starting 39th, this is a guy that we were both optimistic could win the whole race. And obviously it'll be interesting to see, like you said, without the cautions and stuff, if they're able to really move it forward or just they get stuck in traffic.
Well, and then also too, I think it's important to note that he has to do a pass through.
Yeah, that's true.
And say this thing runs green.
Yeah.
A lot early and we don't get a caution early on. Like there's a legit shot that he is so far behind. Like it's almost impossible for him to.
No, you're probably right. I should pump the brakes. Because we were talking about him in matchups before we started recording and like the potential values there. And he's probably in a void because he's just like, I like his skill set, but as far back and then doing the pass through, he could be a lap down before he even gets going. And that's not great. So we have Kostecki. They're one of the road course ringers starting 11th. Daniel Suarez. We'll talk Trackhouse because there's some interesting stuff going on. Suarez was able to pull it. Obviously, won Sonoma last year. Not quite as good at Coda, but definitely someone that at road courses always seems to make an appearance. 8,500, a nice way to go as a potential dominator that could be in front and kind of just run for a while.
I'm convinced he's driving the Chicago street race car.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think for some reason they seem to have one car that is just a little bit faster than everyone else, and because they're trying to get Suarez into the playoffs, they put his ass in this seat.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean he was fast in practice. Obviously pulled it. We'll get to Priest, Jalen, but I think I'm with you as well, which is interesting spot to be. So his teammate Ross Chastain starting 21st at 8,300. It's been rough for Ross. It's been real rough for Ross. And then Austin Cindric starting 20th. Like, I would much rather go to Cindric starting 20th, save a couple $100.
That I would much rather go to Ross Chastain here.
Okay.
Cindric for me, I don't know. We talked about this after he won the Daytona 500 last year. We wanted to fade we bet his under 1.5 wins.
Yeah.
That wound up cashing. And then, this year, I almost feel like he's taken a step back from what he showed during his rookie season. And I think that could be as Penske as a whole hasn't been very consistent. But, yes, he's good at road courses. I just haven't seen enough out of him to trust that he's going to be able to do something without making a mistake.
Yeah, I don't think he's very good on like the normal oval tracks. I think he's a super speedway guy and a road course guy, and maybe pops every once in a blue moon at one of the random tracks. But he was fast in practice. He was a guy that I was excited about coming into the week. And I get to start him, 20th and have him move forward. I think he's a top 10 car, potentially top 5 car. I'm all in at 8,100. Let's go into his teammates. We have Joey Logano starting 18th. We have Ryan Blaney starting 16th. Michael McDowell,
that's incredible,
starting 4th, was a rocket ship in practice. 7,500. Ty Gibbs also looked really, really good. Obviously won the Xfinity race starting 10th. Kevin Harvick starting 38th. Could be interesting. Obviously not your, road course ringer, but starting back where he is might not be the worst. Kobayashi starting 28th. We were kind of optimistic about him and the ride he's in. So I guess from the, the 7K range, who's most interesting to you?
Look, Michael McDowell, I talked about it in practice and qualifying. He looked incredible. He's starting on the front 2 rows. He was top 3, top 4 car at Sonoma. Chicago street race, he was fine. Another top 10. I think he has top 10s or just outside the top 10 at COTA earlier this year, but he's been incredible on the road courses this year. And at 7,500, you're looking at somebody who could potentially, threaten getting it to the lead early on here. And as long as he can just maintain here, and there's no risk of losing positions on pit road because of the stage break cautions, I think he makes a ton of sense as somebody who could just try to play for points and stay where he is and not get too aggressive and wind up wrecking out.
Yep. And he's a guy that's like kind of on the cusp. And obviously you're playing with a little bit of fire with Daytona still looming.
But he's great there too. Like that's another thing.
Well, yeah, and he could point his way in.
Yeah.
Looking at iFantasy Race's total speed ranking since 2022, COTA 2022 was bad, but after that, Sonoma he was 3rd, Road America he was 8th, Indy Road he was 8th. Oh wait, no, he was 10th. He was 2nd at Watkins. He was 8th at Roval. He was 10th at COTA this year. He was 3rd at Sonoma this year. He was 3rd at Chicago Street.
There you go.
Fast on road courses and consistently and like getting better, improving. We talked about him a little bit too. Like he was a guy that made huge strides from the beginning of 22 to the end of 22. And it seems like he's carried a lot of that over. He looks like a legit playoff driver. And who's to say he can't win here or Daytona and just get in on a win anyways?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the guy right below him too, Ty Gibbs, he has clearly got us because, I mean, he looked great in the Xfinity race. Yeah. He's brought a ton of speed recently, too. He's been one of the faster Toyotas, maybe the 2nd or 3rd fastest guy the last couple of weeks. It's just, again, because of his inexperience in the Cup Series, there are some things that he's still trying to figure out over the duration of a race. And, the finishing results haven't really been indicative of the type of car he's brought.
Yeah.
But I mean, because of his success yesterday, I know the car is completely different, but just kind of knowing the lines and all that stuff, I don't expect him to fade off early here. I think he's got an extremely fast car, and so I don't mind going to him and McDowell from this range.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he was also fast in practice makes me optimistic he can convert that to race day, and I think this is a good opportunity for him to make some noise and be a legit factor.
Yeah, and I also one more thing on Gibbs too. Like
Sure.
I know it's still technically his rookie season, but us being kind of team sports guys like football and stuff, when you talk about college football freshmen, when they come in, when you're about 2/3 of the way through the year, they're no longer freshmen. Like
Yep.
they've got a handle on the game itself. And I think Ty Gibbs also, because he's, we're 20 something races in here already. He's no longer like a rookie. He's
Yeah.
an experienced youngster, I guess you would say.
Yeah, like the week to week thing is just he's got the routine down by now. He
Exactly.
knows what he's doing. He knows, okay, I'm showing up to the track, I'm doing this. And he's also understanding that if he gets opportunities to run a few extra laps or run an extra Xfinity race, he's going to take advantage of it to get more comfort, more time on the track. And that's just going to make him a better driver on Sundays. So big fan of him this week. I think he could make a lot of sense. And maybe goes a little overlooked, given where he's starting. The 6K range, we got Brad Keselowski starting 22nd. Alex Bowman starting 9th. My dog is not a fan of Brad Keselowski.
Does not like Brad
apparently. Does not like that. So that's an automatic scratch off. Bowman starting 9th. Interesting to see him pop up a little bit. Especially with.
I was just gonna say, and Dave in the live comments, he brought up a good point. Like Bowman is probably the better play than Elliott based on the discount that you're getting, and then also he's starting a little bit further back. He had better 10-lap average than Chase, and he's also battling to get into the playoffs here. So he's probably somebody who will maintain position, be a little bit safer than Chase, who's a little bit further down and may be a little bit more risky with his moves here.
Yeah, and with Byron starting in the back, maybe they prioritize Bowman's car just a little bit more, knowing that Byron and Larson are already locked into the playoffs. Chase Briscoe, 6,700. This is a guy that does well on shorter, flatter, road coursey. Like it's just kind of his jam. And I know it's been an ugly season for him and SHR as a whole, but I don't hate him starting 13th at 67. Obviously, you got to pick and choose where you're going to dive in, but I think he could make sense in your player pool. Jenson Button starting 31st, 66. Bubba Wallace starting 19th, 65. Could be interesting.
Look, people can talk all the shit they want about Bubba on road courses, which he's been atrocious at, but it in terms of speed, like he has it. It's just whether or not he can maintain during the entire duration of the race. And because they're still battling for points, like I think there's a legit shot. I still love that top 10 number I grabbed. I think a top 10 is definitely in play here because they're not going to be trying too much here and risking, making the wrong decision where he could find himself running 12th through 15th late. And then just based on long run speed, or maybe he's got a little bit extra juice in the car, just cracking the top 10. So that's some decent placement you're getting out of him.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that he gets caught up in the mid pack, like the 12th or 15th spot, and gets caught up in a wash when
just gets stuck.
People are dive bombing into turn 1 for one of the last turns, or something happens and he ends up spinning out and ends up finishing 23rd. But yeah, no, I think he, especially at this price, like I could totally get to that. That'd be an easy click for me. Eric Jones starting 36th, Austin Dillon 27th, Justin Haley rounds out the 6K range. So we like Bubba, we like Bowman. Who else do we like? I like Briscoe. I mean, it's just a triple B attack.
I don't like Briscoe because of where he's starting. I think like you want him to get inside the top 10, and maybe that's possible, but I don't know. I don't think his ceiling is good enough for me to try to get there. I've seen some talk about Austin Dillon starting 27th. He threw together a pretty good 10-lap average. I don't hate doing that just based on where he's starting. And honestly, he's probably the most intriguing guy for me because of his starting position.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also down for a little double Austin lineup and see if we can get that going. Let's round out the rest of the field and we can build a lineup or two. So we got Gilliland starting 23rd at 59. We got Almirola 33rd at 57. Rockefeller starting 37th. He's just out there getting laps in. Stenhouse 34th, Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece, another guy, starting 30th, 5,400, I think is kind of interesting. LaJoy starting 14th, Harrison Burton, Andy Lally, Ty Dillon, and Josh Bilicki round out the field. Does
Yikes.
it hurt a little bit to not see BJ McLeod sitting right there, Brian?
Dude, yeah, I'm kind of sad. We haven't seen him run as many races as I'd want to see, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool that he's taking a step back and allowing, his team to grow with other drivers and stuff. But, I Jalen hit on it in the chat here. Ryan Preece is a decent road course racer, starting 30th, $5,400. Out of this group, he's really the only person that I would consider sub 6K here.
What about Richard Stenhouse? I know
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That's all. He's a definite no.
Fair. That's completely fair.
Like if there's one thing that you could almost assure yourself of on a week-to-week basis, it's that Stenhouse is going to be involved in some sort of wreck or some sort of contact throughout the day.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like he has made serious strides this season and been much more of a top 10 factor, even when we don't really want him to be. We all, he is Recce spinouts for a reason, but
exactly.
he's gotten stronger. So I don't know. I'll be keeping an eye on him. I probably won't roster him, but I'll be keeping an eye on him. So let's build a lineup, Brian, and I'm going to give you the T this week.
Oh.
Who is the first name going into our lineup?
All right. Since we like him and we're both on board here, Allmendinger starting 26th.
Good. I like it. I like it a lot.
Now I worry because I really don't think he can win.
I think he can, but the no stage breaks thing I think does make it a lot more challenging than maybe it would have in the past. I'm gonna push Cindric into the lineup.
Gross.
I know. Just wait. It's gonna get a lot more gross depending on how you go.
Oh, great. Wow. All right. Checking out the prices here. All right, this is going to be let's just go down the board. He was like the last guy I talked about, Ryan Preece. Let's get some salary savings here.
Yeah, I mean we can have some serious fun now. There's lots of stuff we can do.
And we need some we need a dominator though.
I know. I was just thinking that.
Like we're building from the bottom up here. Beautiful. All right. Yeah, I'm glad you went there. All right. We're gonna add another Toyota. Ty Gibbs.
Oh, not the Toyota I thought you were gonna add. That's very interesting.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, we got 9,500. We could do a variety of things here. We could go Chris Bell, go Chris Buescher, go Denny, another little Toyota action. Let's see here. So let's have the Chris Buescher conversation because I think I want to be in, but he was, where is he at?
He had the 17th best single speed, and then he wasn't great in 10 lap average either.
Yeah. And he was not good in practice. And maybe there was some stuff they were figuring out. But obviously we had optimism coming in.
I think his price is inflated based on his recent performances.
Yeah. And he's also
he should be in the 8K range in my opinion.
With COTA being so important, one of the primary factors to this race, he wasn't good at either COTA race last year or this year. So I don't think I can make that click. Hamlin, I'm a little worried. You did say they worked on his car, so that's exciting. Maybe they figured some stuff out. Chastain is a potential click.
I mean, maybe since we're on the Toyota thing and we liked him early in the week, What about getting crazy and just adding Kobayashi, thinking that some people may fade him now that the practice and qualifying wasn't up to par or up to expectation?
I mean, that's completely normal. Like that's fine. I'm in on that. I think it's a little reckless, but leaving a
Well,
little
that's
bit
what I
on
mean
the
exactly. Like if you're gonna differentiate yourself, like
yeah,
get a little wild.
right. I guess my only concern with this is I think Reddick can win. I'm not
I
sure
think
we
Ty
have
Gibbs
anybody
can
else
win.
who can dominate and win the race.
I think Gibbs can win. If it falls his direction, that car has plenty of speed in it.
Yeah, that's probably fair. And I honestly, I know he's starting a little bit back, but if things break right, I think Dinger can win too. So I'm in. Let's do it. Save that lineup. Let's jump over. Let's figure out where the odds are. I was doing a little prep before. So as we sit right now, I faded SVG. Some of these worked out. I think Suarez is a pretty decent favorite now. That didn't work out. Dinger over SVG. Dinger over Kostecki. I still feel pretty good about Dinger in matchups, and I think because of where he qualified,
Yeah,
he'll be
probably get some
fine.
value.
Bell over SVG. Cindric to top 10 at plus money. My outright card is an absolute dumpster fire. Ross Chastain looks like shit. Kobayashi looks like shit. Hamlin, the top 10 I think is fine. And I'm still riding with Truex. I think that's going to be the winner. Although I did, of course, pick the wrong guy. Like I should have gone with Reddick in the outright market and then came back with Truex today, but that's okay. You have Denny and Kobayashi as your outrights. You have Bubba top 10, which I think is pretty nice given where that number is. Dinger over SVG, Dinger over Kostecki, and Mr. McDonald to top 10 at minus 139.
Yeah, which is crazy that you can still get that. It's at Bet Rivers, by the way.
It's wild to me, like some of the movement and or lack of movement that you can get on some of these numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, so we did get a comment. 50% of the top 8 scores so far in 2023 are from the back half of the field on road courses.
Huh.
So that's even this year where they haven't been doing stage breaks. People have still been able to move forward and make some noise, which I think is interesting.
Well, I think it's also too because at road courses you're not going to get the dominator points that you would get at say like a super.
There's less laps, less stuff,
like a short track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really good nugget, family man. Appreciate the nut that there because I think that is interesting, and I think it you really like DraftKings. Like it's you have to go into each like the score. It's the same drivers, and it's still NASCAR, but it's not like football where you get the same amount of points every week, right?
Yeah,
like you have to reconfigure your brain to go, okay, how are points being scored this week, and what can we do to get those in our lineup? So sometimes you're gonna need dominator laps. Sometimes you're gonna need guys to move forward like super speedways. So it really is interesting, and that's a great nugget. Tyler Reddick is the betting favorite at 3 plus 325. I mean, I'm guessing books are getting pounded, and obviously he looked good in practice and qualifying, and there's a lot
the
to
thing
like.
is like, unless he has an issue with the car, he's probably going to be running up front for the majority of the day, and this number is really only going to get shorter unless you catch it at the right moment and say there's a caution right after he pits and cycles, midway through the top 10 or something,
Yeah, or he has a speeding penalty heading into pit road and has to go through a pass through, and then you end up getting a better number, and then he moves to the front again.
Yeah, because he's going to be fast.
Yeah. Chase Elliott 5.5, 6. Daniel Suarez 6.5. That's a number for him. Truex you can get as long as 9. SVG's market has been wild to me. There
Oh,
was
it's
some stuff
crazy.
PJ Walsh was tweeting out about the number of tickets and the percentage of handle that they were getting on him. I've seen him as low as like 3 or 4 to 1 at some
Oh,
of our
that's
favorite
ridiculous.
offshores. Like it's been a ride for him. Kyle Larson, and then we get into 10 to 1. So I guess like approaching the betting board today, if you're looking at it, adding to the outright card, is there anybody inside 10 to 1 that you're considering adding to, or that you would consider betting at this point?
I mean, I think Truex presents some decent value there. He's incredible at road courses, and I believe when he won the at Sonoma, didn't he start like 8th or something?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he started up front there.
No, he's in prime position. You're getting a better number than what pre-practice and qualifying. I think he makes sense. It's hard for me to get to someone like Suarez, given what we were expecting to see before practice and qualifying and where that number has moved. I have a hard time betting Chase Elliott, just kind of in general. I'm not betting SVG.
Isn't it a wild statement to say that at a road course at 6 to 1 when he qualified on the second row, it's hard to get to him at 6 to 1.
Yeah, and especially because like he wasn't screaming fast in practice either. It's one of those things. Like I think sometimes the books adjust too much based on what we got out of qualifying, and obviously he's a popular driver, so they're going to have to adjust.
Yeah,
but he wasn't good in practice, and I'm a little concerned. I don't hate Larson either at 8.5, 9 to 1, but I think Truex is a better bet. Larson's a guy though that finds a way to get his car there. He just has some knucklehead tendencies sometimes. He's been feast or famine at points, but if you want to get some exposure to him, I think outright's probably the move.
Yeah, it's hard to get there with Larson though, just because like, I mean, I don't know. He just hasn't been a winner,
Yeah.
He's
and I also worry like if Larson and Elliott are near the front, do we, like we talked about with Trackhouse and Chastain and I think Suarez, like, is there a world where Larson kind of pushes Elliott to a win to get him into the playoffs?
Well, I don't think he would voluntarily do that, but I think that might be a situation where the garage of Hendrick says, "Hey, you're gonna have to forfeit this victory here."
Yeah, if Rick Hendrick gets on the mic and says, "Hey, buddy, we need to get another car into the playoffs," he might bite the bullet and take it. All right, we got Chris Bell at 10 or 11. We got McDowell at like 10, 12, 14. Honestly, like
I think that's a good.
I was just gonna say I don't think it's a bad bet.
McDowell looked great.
I know it's Michael McDowell, and you want to bet him at north of 20, but at this point, when he has a car that is this fast, he is capable on road courses of getting it to victory lane. So 10, 12, 14, I don't hate that number. Like obviously try and get the best of the number as possible. So we'll look at top 10s and matchups and stuff, but I'm guessing those have been hammered and are basically gone. Kyle Busch, 10, 12, 14. I think we hit everybody. Is there anything else you want to add on this range before we dive into the longer shots at like 20 and north of there?
Yeah, so I mean, I like Bell at 11, and then McDowell at 12. I don't hate, but I almost feel like there's more value in going to him. For instance, in the top 10 that I played, where you're still getting minus 139 there, because he has to assure himself a good finish here. He cannot wreck out while trying to battle for a playoff spot. So, as much as he wants to win a race to notch himself a victory, like if it's a decision as whether or not to stay out on old tires or pit with everybody else, I think he's probably going to pit to guarantee himself a decent finish.
Yeah, and I think like top 3, top 5, maybe manufacturer could be a nice way to look to if you don't want to go to the outright market. Dinger at 20, Ty Gibbs as long as 28 over at DraftKings. That's kind of interesting.
A great number.
Bowman's 28. Which one would you rather bet, Gibbs or Bowman?
Man,
Initially, I want to say Bowman, but I think
I'd rather
Gibbs.
go with the Toyota, man. Like this is
No.
definitely the disappointment in HMS from last week. Speaking a little bit, but
Yeah.
I would rather hit Gibbs. I think.
And then we got Busher in the 30s. I'm all set there. I'd much rather I think he could be a top 10 car, but maybe top 5. That's kind of. But I mean, like we talked about, struggles at Coda. Slow in practice. Don't love it. Cindric 35-40. Denny 35-40.
I mean, Denny's never a bad bet. I've almost 40 at 40-1 for Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, we bet it at what 22, so
Yeah,
at 40. If he figures it out, it's just I don't know, man. If he feels like somebody who, when he has it, and right away, and when it's not there, it's going to be a long day of him riding around in like 11th, and then hopefully finishing inside the top 10.
Yeah, sorry, I've been catching the beginning of this Saints Chiefs preseason game, and let me just say, this Saints offense is going to be a lot of fun with Derek Carr.
How fun is it to have football back, by the way?
Look, I'm excited for football, but at the same time, we're close to NASCAR playoffs here, so I'll be watching football, but my main focus is probably going to be NASCAR. I continue to deviate further and further each year into the doorway of NASCAR against football.
Pretty crazy. Well,
yeah.
Byron 55-60. Like, I don't hate taking a nibble, but like we talked about with DraftKings, like he has to start in the back. He has to do a pass through penalty.
Single lap speed in practice.
He's gonna need to do some serious. But if I'm betting Byron, like I want to get paid out. So like I'm taking
60-1.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Do I want to add it? That's the question.
I mean, it's really
who would you rather bet at 60-1? Byron, Kostecki, Ross Chastain, Chase Briscoe, or Brad Keselowski?
Probably Chastain, just because like I think it'd be a lot of fun to have him win.
Yeah.
Now, do I think it's possible? That probably not, but
I mean, at least he's starting in the 20s and has a chance to stay on the track. But I mean, his teammate put it on pole. So do they figure out what Suarez did, or is Suarez's car set up for a single lap speed and Chastain's is set up for a long run? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you look at, especially when you look at the 10-lap averages, there's a full mile per hour difference once you dip into the like the 7th and 8th place guys. So I mean, there is a legit tier system this weekend here, and in order for those guys outside of that top tier to win, it's going to need some chaos at the end of the race, which is always possible in 2023 NASCAR. But
especially because the last 2 years at this track, we've seen
some craziness. Yeah.
So just got to get in the conversation. Don't get dive bombed in turn 1, and you might have a shot.
Yeah. Just for bankroll, being responsible with the bankroll, I'm not adding one of those 60-1 numbers.
You're smart. Let's go top 10. Actually, let's go over to Barstool.
Let me open up FanDuel because I know sometimes they
yes,
open up
please
numbers.
do, because they're one of those places that wait until the last possible second and then dump a bunch of stuff, and there's value to be had.
Ooh, there is some.
There was a couple I saw, I think, on DraftKings as well. That I want matchups I want to talk about. I think Cindric over Chastain's probably smart. Bell versus.
What happened to top 10s? What happened to top 10s? You're jumping the gun here.
Sorry, I get so excited. It's at the top. I get excited. I see numbers that I like.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Let's shop these top 10 numbers and see if there is any value at all.
So Bowman at top 10 at plus 110, I don't think is bad. Dinger at even, I think is fine.
Plus 125 at Bet Rivers though.
Huh?
Bowman, top 10.
What's Ty Gibbs? Because that Gibbs number is pretty nice too.
Plus 120 at Caesars.
Okay, he's 120 at Barstool. Plus money for a guy who's starting where he's starting, and we've talked about as a guy who could potentially win this race. Plus money on him to top 10. That feels pretty nice. Briscoe top 10. Give me what's my best number? Because it's 2-1 here.
It's 2-1 at FanDuel. Let's see. 2-1 at FanDuel.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're going there. Yeah, that's the best number I see. Or it's also 2-1 at Caesars.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That's gross, by the way.
I know. Kobayashi's finally priced accordingly. He's 3-1 to top 10. He was like plus 180.
Yeah, that's why I said like the number was just too short to bet that early in the week. I didn't mind grabbing the outright at 50, which I mean, yeah, even if he didn't do well, that's a small ticket.
Bubba is 9-1 to top 10. Where's he at in practice?
That's crazy. How'd that number get bigger at Barstool?
He's 20th in average.
So what? He's still 6 at BetMGM.
He's still 6. All right, I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna nibble that.
Yeah, it's interesting. They got Austin Dillon, who we talked about earlier, 6.5 to 1 at Caesars for a top 10.
I don't hate that.
You know, I'm gonna hit this. Ross Chastain top 10, 2-1 at Caesars. All right. I'm talking myself into this. It's got to be wearing the hat. It's got to be having the watermelon logo on my head right now.
The watermelon seeds are infecting your brain, Brian.
Yeah.
You can get 225 at Barstool, by the way.
All right, I'll hit that number.
Yeah.
And of course, I got to contact the wife because she's in Vegas.
Huh?
The wife's in Vegas, so she's gonna have to go play some of these bets for me.
Yeah, for sure. Venmo payment en route. Yeah. I want to look. Okay, here's top 5.
Okay, yeah, I think there's some decent potential value to be had in this market as well.
Michael McDowell plus 170 top 5. It doesn't feel
plus 220 on Caesars.
Better. That feels better.
I still almost like the top 10 from Bet Rivers more though. Even if you're laying $1.40 to win $1 on his top 10, that's much more likely, and I think that has the much higher probability of hitting than his top 5. Especially when you see his outright is only 12 to 1. I would want his top 5 number to be like 4.
Yeah, that's just I mean. Given what we have with everybody else, I don't think that's happening. I mean, the fact that he's priced the same as SVG is pretty wild to me, but
yeah, true.
Yeah, Dinger at 375, I think is kind of interesting. If you guys see any top 5s, top 10s you like, please feel free to shout them out. We're always looking for opportunities. Top 3, what's his top 3? Plus 450 to top 3. So 2 spots, you're getting basically double the odds. Ty Gibbs to top 3, it's plus 750. Like I'd much rather bet Gibbs at 750 to top 3 than outright.
Oh, that's nothing. He's 850 at Caesars for a top 3.
And what's his top 5 there?
340. Plus 350 at DK and BetMGM though.
Okay.
For a top 5.
Plus 350, or what was the top 3 number?
850.
Ooh. Oof.
I mean, that's a big difference, though. Even though it's only 2 spots, that's a huge difference when you know that there is some really good racers in this field.
See, but that's the difference. Like, if you can get if you're paying if you're not getting that much of a bump when you're going going from top 5 to top 3,
Yeah, true.
it's not worth it. But if you're basically more than doubling your run, that makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, hold on. I jumped the gun and
Of course
opened
you
up
did.
matchups. And
We should rename our podcast to the Jumping the Gun podcast.
there is one particular matchup. Yep, it's live. That is ridiculous.
Wow.
Okay. Brody Kostecki versus Shane Van Gisbergen. What should the odds be? Let's just
SVG minus 160, 170.
SVG minus 275 and Brody Kostecki 2-1.
I could see it. I mean, it's not where it should be, but based on name value and all that expectation, that makes I can see them doing that to not get absolutely buried.
Like that's freaking crazy, especially knowing how Kostecki's practice started, where he couldn't even get the car going. They had some issues, like electrical issues, and then he threw together a pretty damn good qualifying session.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I agree that there's value there for sure. There was a couple of those this week.
I'm gonna hit it. The number is too big.
Ty Gibbs to be top 10 or 10-1 to be top Toyota is interesting, but I think I'd rather take the 850 of the top 3 because I think Reddick and Truex could easily be the winner and potentially both of them be 1-2, and then Gibbs needs to be 3. So, kind of interesting to think about that. Briscoe 825 to be top 4. Oh yeah, that's McDowell's world.
Gross.
God,
FanDuel sucks. I hope they're not watching.
I don't care if they are. Figure it out, FanDuel.
Yeah, no matchups. They hardly have any props. Like, get your shit together.
So mine was Denny Hamlin plus 175 versus Daniel Suarez.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. I told you about this one before. Michael McDowell minus 200.
Yeah.
Truex versus Reddick.
You can get plus 140 on DK.
That's interesting.
I mean, look, Reddick is incredibly fast, but who do you trust more in order to not make a mistake?
Yeah.
I mean, if you are looking at Coda as the most comparable track, like Reddick was incredible. So Kyle is in deep focus looking for.
I'm just looking for value. I'm just trying to make it happen. Hamlin's plus 190 over here against Suarez. Okay. Chastain plus 190 versus McDowell. They got some real lopsided matchups.
All right. Any way I can fade this guy, I'm going to try to do it. So, Bet Rivers, Chastain versus Brad Keselowski. Minus 122. I'm going to take the watermelon man here.
Dinger is plus 130 against SVG. I already bet it, so I'm not going to add it. But
yeah, we got it at even money. I don't think there's
Truex plus 150 against Reddick.
Dude,
that doesn't seem right. I mean, Reddick may make me look like an idiot when he just dominates from start to finish. But those are even drivers. They're starting in the same range. They got it. All right, Brian, at this point, I think we're just reading, so we should look for, is there anything else you want to look at before we give the people our favorite bet and get out of here?
Ooh, damn. Dinger's price against Brody Kostecki went up to -150, by the way. So we got good value on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to look at the top Ford market or the top manufacturer market real quick on Caesars.
I'm just like top Toyota at +135. I think is interesting because we like a lot of the Toyotas.
Yeah, to
just
win
in general. All right, so Chevy, we got Suarez, Elliott, SVG, Larson at 450, Dinger at 10-1, Bowman at 12-1.
It's got a lot. I think the Bowman one is decent, and then the Chastain one too. Like, if there is chaos that happens, Chastain is.
Yeah, and he's been good about making up ground on road courses, especially when there's incidents. So 25-1. I'd much rather bet that than like, his outright or his top 5 based on price and based upon expectations.
Man, you can get Larson over Elliott plus money. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to attack this race here, but yeah, I can't get too over my skis here just because I've been flailing the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So it's really about finding who you're excited about this week and finding, or not excited about, and finding ways to either be on them or fade them.
Yeah.
Gibbs at 9-1. Oh yeah, I added that. I mean, I guess it depends on the Fords, but Briscoe's 8-1 to be top Ford, and Gibbs is 9-1, but Gibbs has stiffer competition. But like we also talked about McDowell, and who's not going to beat himself, so that's why he's priced at +180, and according. Yeah. Ryan Preece 75-1.
That's pretty good, but no way.
All right, you ready to recap and get out of here? Once again, if you are enjoying the betting content, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, and then go check out our guy Chris Werme. He's got some good stuff. He's pre-race poll, I believe, starting at 10:30 today or 11:30. Do you know?
Oh, I didn't even see. I think the race starts
to his channel and go check it out. I can probably pull it up on my phone real quick while we hit the best bets. Are you ready to head over to our betting card, give the people our thoughts, and get out of here?
Let's do it.
Okay. So Brian, you have a very under control. Oh, Wormy's live, so head over there as soon as you get done here. Denny and Kobayashi, Bubba top 10, Dinger over SVG, Dinger over Kostecki, Truex at 9-1, which I think is a nice value right there. McDowell top 10 at -139. Chastain top 10 at +225. Kostecki over SVG 2-1, and then Chastain over Keselowski -122. Brian Twining, what is your best bet for the Verizon 200 at the Brickyard?
All right, I hope this doesn't bite me in the ass, but I'm going to go with that Mick D top 10 -139. There's too much on the line for him in terms of playoff points, so I think he's going to make sure he places it in there. Starting 4th, he's got a distinct advantage there, so I'm going to take the value and smash this.
I like it. So I have Suarez over SVG, Dinger over SVG, Dinger over Kostecki, Bell over SVG. I have Cindric as a top 10 as my best bet heading into practice and qualifying. Still happy with that. If you want to hammer that, Chastain, Kobayashi, and Truex are my outrights. As well as Denny Hamlin. I went Hamlin top 10. I have a Bubba top 10, which I added 9-1. I had a McDowell top 5 at +220. Ty Gibbs top 3 at 850. And I think my favorite bet, which is crazy because Reddick could just dominate from start to finish, is Truex over Reddick. I think Truex was my favorite coming into the week. I think he could have a really strong day, and we've seen with Tyler, whether it's speeding, whether it's accidents, whether it's issues, he can get himself into trouble. So I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to see if I can hit some winners. Hopefully you guys hit some winners today, and cash on DraftKings and have an amazing race weekend. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you next time.